What's up guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be finally doing a little bit of Barra content. Now barras for a long time were sort of Australia's best kept secret. Now there seem to be a lot of people around that know exactly what they are. Thanks Adam LZ. But they're a pretty cool little thing. You know, 4 litre straight 6 performance based engine. They came factory turbo and they're pretty off tap. I mean there's not really anywhere else in the world that I can think of where you can go and get a turboed inline 6 manual ute that's performance based, and that in itself is pretty cool, and that's very uniquely Australian, and I've always thought that was pretty cool. So they're a pretty awesome motor. At the risk of being crucified by my comment section, they're almost as good as a 2J. Not quite, but they're a freaking awesome motor. And for people in Australia, they're much more easily accessible and they're a lot cheaper for us as well. So it goes without saying, they're a very, very popular base or performance engine base in Australia for a lot of things, and they're starting to become more popular all around the world. So anyway, today, do a few key upgrades on these things, and we'll talk about, you know, the first sort of steps you want to be taking to be getting more out of your Barra. So most of the people who watch my videos already know probably all about the Barra, so probably preaching to the choir. We're a little bit late to the party as far as doing Barra content. There's heaps of Australian YouTubers that have done heaps of it, but nonetheless, I'm sure there's a few other people out there who still probably don't know everything or know what we're going to talk about today. Not only that, I'm trying to promote some stuff from our shop which you can go and buy. So let's get into what we're going to do. A few key things with the Barra, particularly these early BA motors and stuff. They came with very average injectors. You very quickly run out of injector. It's one of the first things you need to upgrade, as well as valve springs. So they are renowned for having very weak, pretty terrible valve springs. So it's another one of those things that straight away get upgraded. As soon as you want to start pushing past about 10 PSI, we start upgrading these things. So that's what I'm going to be doing to this one today. New injectors, new valve springs, and we'll retune with a little bit more boost. Now, all of our Barras are tuned using PCM TAC. It is definitely the best software that you could use for tuning the stock Barra PCM, 100%. It's amazing software, it's really, really good. So the Barra PCM is another one of those things where it's very, very good at what it does, but it's very, very complicated and convoluted. So it can be a bit of a struggle to try and get them sort of right, but they are a really, really, really good ECU. So this particular car here, BA, is the T5 5-speed manual. Now they did offer this in the earlier XR6 turbos, and they are a lot weaker than the 6-speed manual. So this one's got a fairly weak box in it, so we're not looking for massive power, but we should be okay. And the second one that's on its way as well, it's got the BTR, which is the 4-speed auto, which again is quite a bit weaker than the 6-speed auto offered later in the late BFs and in the FG. So both cars that we're doing in this episode have the weaker boxes, so both of them we're not chasing huge power, but both of them, you know, nice and torquey, spicy, fun little cars. So we'll get into what we're going to do. So on this car here, we already have a couple of key upgrades which are, you know, pretty important on these cars. Firstly, we have an upgraded intercooler kit as well as an upgraded intake. The stock ones are somewhat restrictive. We also have ourselves a 4-inch dump pipe into a 3.5-inch exhaust. So again, the stock exhausts are quite restrictive. So these are some very key first performance upgrades. And the next thing we need after that is what we're going to be doing today, which is injectors and valve springs and a good tune. Anyway, first things first, as with every street car that comes here for any upgrades or a tune, we'll get ourselves a baseline, see what it's running at the moment, so that we can see how much we're gaining from our upgrades and everything else. So let's see what we got.
So your speedo's dropped out. Dropped out? Yeah, there's no speedo anymore. The ABS all comes on. So I'm gonna bring it up to 80. Watch this is what I'm saying about there's something wrong with my Falcon too. Like, this is at just over 2 grand, it'll hit 5 PSI. Falcon just wheeled on.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll show you, watch this, watch what it does.
So we're having a few issues with this thing going into like a limp mode sort of thing with the ECU. We've had a look on PCM Tech. It looks like quite a few things in the ECU have been changed, mostly the torque tables and stuff like that. So it looks like someone's sort of had to go at this ECU with PCM Tech or something and changed a heap of stuff. Anyway, not to worry. It's just that's one of the main things it's good to do baseline stuff like this, because we know that we have these issues before we start, and we know that it wasn't because of the work we've done sort of thing that it's starting to have these issues. So yeah, still working on getting the baseline, but got to work through these issues, make sure everything's working for the baseline first before we go starting to pull it apart and do our upgrades. So. Alright guys, so we managed to get to the bottom of our issue. So now it's actually building boost the way it should, behaving the way it's meant to, so now we can get on to doing our baseline. The dose is so sick. Mad dose. Alright guys, we've got our couple of baselines. As you saw then, it shoots mad flames when you back off, which is weird, but cool, I guess. Anyway, pretty staunch little thing, 330, you know, over 330 wheel horsepower for our baselines. So that's just running on that sort of 6 pound, which is, as far as we know, just the stock boost pressure. And like I said, it's just got an intake, upgraded intercooler kit, and an exhaust on it. So it's pretty good. Like you look at the same era as this sort of SS, you know, LS1 being early 2003 BA. So you're looking at LS1 manual, like we've had some freaks that will do like stock engine will do sort of 330, but those are sort of freaks. So, you know, if this, you know, our XR6 turbo that we've got, it's just got an upgraded turbo, but it's only running about that 7 pound as well. And it makes, you know, 327 or whatever it made.
I think it's
close to that.
320 on the dot, wasn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure when I done it, it was like 327.
Wasn't that with the weird intake and stuff? I think as it says with stock intake, it was 320.
Yeah, maybe, might have been 320. But either way, like that's stock for stock. You got to hand it to the XR6 turbo. They're pretty cool. So this obviously being manual and being a ute as well, it's a solid rear end. So a little bit more power in there for that, and obviously the upgrades it's got too. So pretty good little baseline for that sort of boost pressure. Once we've finished our sort of upgrades, we plan on upping the boost to around that 12 PSI. So, you know, 12 PSI, it's got to make some good power. So looking forward to it. All right, guys, so the barrage continues. We've got ourselves our second XR6 turbo here for the week. This is the other one I was talking about. This is actually quite a nice car. I quite like it. It's the same color as ours, but not broken and gross and fading and stuff, and it actually looks really good. This is also like a sunroof model. It's got leather seats. It's freaking nice. Anyway, this is pretty much in here for the exact same treatment as that one, except for we've talked to the owner of this one about just going ahead and doing the flapper mod straight away, whereas the ute there, we're just going to wait and see if we need to, because we haven't discussed that with the owner just yet. So this one's got a plasma man intercooler kit, an intake kit, a little bit different. It's got some sort of replacement high flow turbo, which he reckons is boost spiking. So same deal, we've got some issues we need to look into before we go too far with it. And this one here's got the mighty BTR 4-speed, which is actually the same gearbox that I'm putting behind the Barra that's going to the VS. So fingers crossed we can keep this thing alive, and we'll see how we go. The owner reckons he wants to push it to 15 PSI. It has apparently got ARP head studs in it, so we're going to confirm that when we go to do the valve springs. provided it's got those studs in it, pretty happy to push this thing to 15 psi. I've talked to the owner about the risks involved with the BTR as far as doing so, and he's okay with it, so we'll send it. I must say, doing all this Barra stuff is really making me keen to do something with ours and fix it up and turning it into something that's respectable. Even this thing's just on rotor grids. Like, it looks pretty cool. I got this idea of putting ours on rotor torque R's. Again, just a cheap, nice looking wheel. We're not wheel snobs. As long as they're round and they go and they don't break too often. So anyway, first things first, just like the other one, we'll start off with a baseline run, see what this thing's doing to start with. So we'll swap them around on the dyno. Alright guys, so we got it sorted out. When the owner of this car, Dale, dropped it off, he was talking about, he reckoned it was going into like overboosting like hell. So the problem was that the boost solenoid wasn't actually connected to the actuator, so we reconnected that, and then it was going into an overboost in the actual ECU, which he had to fix, which we've actually had to fix on both of these cars, and our personal one as well, so it's a bit weird. I don't know what it is about their overboost setting, but anyway. Got it to not go into overboost on the ECU and we're all sweet. It's running 10 pound, so it must just be the way the duty cycle for the wastegate's set up with the actuator they've got in this thing, because they've got an aftermarket actuator in there. So it's running 10 pound, making good power, but fuel system's not keeping up. So only the one run for this one. We're not going to run that up again because it's too lean. And this tacho's way out. We only actually turned it to 5.4, but got out of it as soon as it was getting lean, but yeah, 356 horsepower, which is pretty decent. So that's on about 10 pound. Anyway, that's going to be it for that. This has still got the stock injectors and fuel system in it. That'd be why it's not keeping up. But yeah, we've got some new goodies to throw in. So we'll get both underway, start upgrades, and give them both a good tune with good fuel systems and good valve springs when we're finished. See what we can do.